Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Red October commences. And we know now it's Phillies and Mets as we get ready for an epic series. That's right, Red October special, powered by Ace Hardware Home Services. That's right. Tackle your new project, your home project, with the experts that we know and we love at Ace. Go to acehardwarehomeservices.com. The helpful place is Ace. All right, joining me to break down this incredible series as we know it. Holy War on the West Coast, Holy War on the East Coast. Now, Phillies and Mets, and from all PHLY, the great Jim Salisbury joins us. Jimmy!
Good morning.
We got
Good
it.
evening. Good playoff. Good happy October. Red October. It is. We're on the doorstep of it, and we know who they're playing at.
Well, let's go to last night because it was thrilling. I mean, man, it doesn't get better than October baseball. We talked about it all week. It's been great games. And then last night, the Brewers look like they're poised, right? They had the 2 solo home runs. They're going into the ninth with a 2-0 lead. Lindor walks, Nimmo gets a hit, and Alonso goes opposite field. And next thing you know, the Mets with a stunning victory in the decisive Game 3.
Yeah. Next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. I mean, that was just, it was a fantastic finish, and the Mets have had a couple of them here this week in Atlanta, which was ostensibly a playoff game. And then last night, Alonso hadn't homered in like a month or something, close to a month. And, it could be his last at bat as a Met because he's going to be a free agent. And his power was really missing in recent weeks. And he gets 2 men on. They're down by 2 runs. And, he's facing Devin Williams, is electric.
Yeah.
And so Williams, this is a stat I read from Sarah Langs, great researcher at ESPN and MLB.com. So Devin Williams this year threw 176 changeups, gave up 0 home runs on that pitch. And what do you know? Gets a changeup up to Pete Alonso and gives up a home run.
Wow.
After giving up any on 176 changeups, gives up a home run on changeup there. And one of the biggest home runs in Mets history. And I guess, and Howie Rose's call was just great on the radio and fabulous. So they're on their way to Philadelphia. They're here by now. They get on a plane last night late and probably sleeping in right now and have a workout later on Friday. And then we'll be Red Octobering with just the right guy on the mound, man. Zack Wheeler, former Met, a lot to pitch for, great pitcher. Good way to start off a short series for the Phillies. But I will say this, and I've been saying this for weeks. I think the Mets are dangerous. I thought if they got in, they're going to be a very tough out. They're in. They've proven to be a tough out in Milwaukee. And they're a team that's really gone in the right direction, Anthony. If you remember back to early June, the Phillies have the high point of their season, a sweep of Milwaukee. They go over to London. They're flying high. Since London in early June, the Phillies are 3 games over 500. The Mets, including last night's win in Milwaukee, are 26 games over 500. So that's a team that, from even before the halfway point of the season, has played outstanding baseball. A team that played its way into the postseason with an unbelievable finishing kick and then some, while the Phillies, won the division basically on the strength of their first 3 months. So a tale of 2 seasons for both teams, and now they're going to converge in Citizens Bank Park this weekend.
You know what's odd is that it was funny. I was talking to a scout friend of mine, and he was almost perplexed by the Mets. Like he was going through we're going through the three phases, right? And you're looking at starting pitching, relieving, in the lineup, and he's like, man, the Phillies are dramatically better in all three. It's certainly in the pitching when it comes to starting pitching and the bullpen. He's like, I don't know how the Mets are doing it.
Well, I think the Phillies are probably dramatically better in track record, in names, in pedigrees. But I mean, as I just pointed out, 4 months is a long time of baseball, and there's
Uh-huh.
26 games over 500. They've been doing something right. I mean, I would agree that their starting rotation is not what the Phillies is, certainly in terms of recognizability and track record, et cetera, and star power. But they've done the job. Mania, Quintana, Megill, Peterson. They've done the job. The Phillies, I think, have a decided advantage in the bullpen. Rob Thompson can go to 5 guys that he
Yes.
really, really trusts, that have really pitched well throughout the season and even more recently down the stretch. I do like the Phillies pitching, top to bottom over the Mets. But, the Mets have an MVP candidate at shortstop has had a great year. They have a second baseman in Iglesias that's had a great second half and been an incredible difference maker. I got a good young catcher. The third baseman has been a good player for them. A guy like Megill, he likes to live up in the zone with that power fastball. And sometimes if he's locating, that could give the Phillies trouble. I fear these long, inconsistent stretches by the Phillies offense, but I'm heartened by the fact that they have a great pitching staff, and we know the Phillies offense can go on heaters that last a month. So if the Phillies play well, they are a better team, but they need to play well. They need their stars to have a great series if they're going to get to where they want to go.
Well, look, you and I have been covering baseball forever, and October is filled with drama, and it's also filled with mystery, right? Like the mystery of the Diamondbacks being able to win games 6 and 7 last year at Citizens Bank Park, the mystery through the years, right? We've seen the Colorado Rockies, like we've seen these teams kind of make runs, even the 2022 Phillies, like we talk about. I don't know where it stops and where it ends, right? Like we always like hot team, but the best team, right? Like I look at the Phillies and I hear you on the pitching staff, but I mean, look, you're coming in with Wheeler, you're coming in with Nola. I like where Sanchez is. And then you got that lineup, which is completely dangerous. I mean, yeah, they have had spells, but by and large, I mean, when you're coming at Schwarber, Turner, Harper, at all. JT's healthy now. I mean, Castellanos is swinging a good bat. I mean, that's a really potent lineup.
Oh, no question. If they're clicking and producing it on top of their game and playing the way they can, they'll grind up the Mets. But, I think like you said, the postseason is a mystery. Anything can happen. Yeah. There's no reason the Mets, unless the Phillies stop them, the Mets can go out there and have, 3, 4, 5 good games and advance. So, we just don't know. I do know this. The Phillies need to play well to get by this team because they are a tough out, and they are drinking some magic potion, and they are feeling good about themselves, and they have a lot of momentum, and they can point to the last 4 months and say, we've been like having one of the best records in baseball the last 4 months. So they have a lot of reasons to believe. I just don't think you can throw and Phillies know this. You can't throw the gloves out in the field and beat this team. You need Turner, Castellanos, Schwarber, Bohm. They need to play good. They need to play good, and they need to, there needs to be. You need to do the small thing. You need to run the bases well. You can't walk guys and give away, free passes and give away free bases because those are when. Those are things that come back to bite you. You need to play good defense. You need 11 wins, and little things really, really matter at this time of year.
No, I mean, listen, you're spot on, and I think the one thing, and let's talk about this as we'll cover just the intangibles first. the Phillies haven't been there, right? Like, and understanding that, hey, look, we got to bear down. Like, we know what befelled us last year, right? Pitching backwards, being impatient at the plate. That innate knowledge of kind of what kind of cost you should help in theory.
Oh, no question. What kind of athlete are you if you're not learning from your mistakes?
Right.
Not a good one. So failure is a great teacher. So um, they failed in games 6 and 7, and they weren't really even consistent leading up to that after the first couple of games against the Arizona Diamondbacks last year. So I sensed from talking to guys early in the season that quick out against that sudden out, I should say, against Arizona last year really shaped this team's thinking and really was a wake-up call, really was a slap in the face and a learning experience. I really sensed that early in the season guys would openly talk about. I haven't heard a lot about that as much recently, but I'm sure in these last 4 days where they've had some time off, they've done some reflecting on their sudden exit last year. And it was all because, basically the offense just shut down. And it shut down because they started, chasing pitches off the plate. They lost their selectivity. You can't do that. I'm not crazy about the word patience for a hitter. I much more prefer the term selectivity because if the guy throws you a meatball early in the count, I mean,
yeah,
why
you're
do you
going to
want
be dead right hitting first pitch.
Right,
If
tee
that's your
off on that
pitch,
meatball,
then
but
you got to swing at it. Yeah.
Be selective. If it's if it's up here at the letters, go easy. If it's off the plate, go easy. Don't be afraid to. You don't have to hit an eight run home run. You don't have to be the guy all the time. Sometimes you can take that ball 4, go down to first base. You got to run around base and let the next guy try to do some damage. So I do think probably the sudden exit last year was a good learning experience, a good motivator. But to me, starting pitching is going to be the big decider in this series. And you got Wheeler, you got Nola, you got Sanchez. Really pretty good place to start. But, we've seen Manaea, have a good season. Quintana, another lefty, is a guy that will just
pitched
try
well
to
last night. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll just try to
Shockingly,
get
I'll be honest with you. I thought the Brewers matched up with their right-handed bats. I thought they matched up with him, and he gave you 6 shutout. I was stunned.
And he's a guy who loves to get you to chase, So he could, if he's on his game, he'll be tough for the Phillies. But Phillies play well. Their top players have, good performances. They do little things. I think they're the better team.
All right, well, let's look at the lineup and look at the keys to this lineup and making it churn, right? Obviously, I think Schwarber and Harper are givens. Turner is, again, I think such a key to this thing because hitting the 2-hole, because when he does get hot, he can carry himself.
When he gets hot, wins follow. When Harper gets hot, wins follow. Schwarber can be such an early tone setter for this team. He's such an unorthodox leadoff man, yet he's so successful. When you look at the on-base percentage, the pitches that he sees, the job he's done against left-handers this year, which is promising because the Mets have 3 left-handers. And I'm not saying go out there and lead off the game with a home run or try to lead off the game with a home run, but try to lead off Saturday with a good at bat. And boy, he hit 14 leadoff home runs this year, and 13 of those games ended up with Phillies wins. That's to me remarkable. In terms of tone setter that he can be. It doesn't have to be a home run; it could just be a good at bat. But you're right. Turner is so streaky. He can have a good month, like that, where he's hitting the ball gap to gap, where he's backspinning it out of the ballpark. But they need a complete effort from Turner. You need him on the sacks. You need him running. You need him hitting the ball all over the place, but you also need him fielding the ball well at shortstop because he can be prone to some defensive miscues. And you got an MVP candidate at shortstop on the other side who's a very good defender, and Francisco Lindor has had a ton of big hits here. He's going to finish second in the MVP voting. But there's no reason Trey Turner can't be the MVP of the series for the Phillies, because when he gets hot, he is so fun to watch. And when he's on a good roll, he is very productive.
Well, and then after that, I mean, I think you got to look at the right-handed bats, and you got to look at, Castellanos, you got to look at Bohm and JT, because JT kind of gives you balance in this 6-hole, right? JT can give you big hits, gives you power. He should be rested after the injuries. He finally seems to be healthy. So he could play a big role in this thing.
No question. Your right-handed bats are going to be real potential separators because you're going to see so much left-handed pitching, at least on the starting side for the Mets. And you mentioned them all: Bohm, Castellanos, Turner, JT. So, yeah, if they're all clicking, that's a chance to really do some damage there. But I like JT around that 6-hole with some men on base. I like Bohm with some men on base. And you make a mistake on Castellanos, and if he's selective, I mean, he's very, very dangerous.
So what would you do with Rojas? I think it's pretty obvious, right, that, Rojas and Sosa, like with the platoon of the lefties, I think you got to platoon Sosa and Stott at second. And I think you need the defense in center. And you can have Marsh and Hayes kind of platoon against lefties.
I am completely in lockstep with you. I want the defense in center field, because if this lineup is hitting the way it should, and this is the lineup that needs to slug a little bit, but they also need to put an emphasis on contact. And I think if you put an emphasis on contact, the slug will come if you're squaring it up good. But, this is a lineup that, if it's clicking, it should have no problem carrying Rojas as kind of a, weak bat, strong defense in center field. Take away base hits, conceivably take away runs. So, yeah, I want him out there in center field, and I want a platoon at left field and second base. I don't know what Rob is going to do. I have a feeling he might do that, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Stott has not had the year that you thought he would. Certainly not the year that he had last year. He struggles against lefty pitching, where Edmundo Sosa just tees off on lefty pitching. You need 11 quick wins. You got to put your best lineup on the field that night, and I think it lends itself to a platoon at second. You got Austin Hayes because he hits left-handed pitching. You got Austin Hayes for one reason: he hits left-handed pitching. Marsh does not hit left-handed pitching. I mean, come on, that's a textbook platoon. Utilize that in left field and utilize one at second base. I don't know if that's Rob's plan, but I think it would make a lot of sense if he wants to go that direction in terms of putting the best lineup you possibly can on the field that night. I mean, sometimes during the regular season, you might in the back of your mind say, boy, this would make a platoon that would make sense, but I'm going to ride out this guy. Like when they first got Hayes, they rode him out a little bit against righties and lefties because they just wanted to see how it would all work. I don't think you have that luxury right now. I think you need to optimize the best lineup you can that particular night.
It's a Red October special, and of course, we're powered by Ace Hardware Home Services. Check them out, acehardwarehomeservices.com. All right, get started on your projects. Ace is the helpful place. Let's talk about the rotation and Wheeler tomorrow. I mean, you and I have talked about it. It's a great subplot with the Mets not offering Wheeler a contract, not coming back, and not giving him any offer. And if you're Zack Wheeler, who's blossomed into one of the studs of the game, it's nice, man. It's nice to be able to get them in game one.
Yeah, this is a guy. I think he draws a lot of motivation from those little subplots. I don't think he's he's quiet. He's not a guy who's going to kind of admit that, but you get him in the right mood, and he admits that stuff is in the back of his mind. And why wouldn't it be? He's a human being. They didn't let him come to the World Series in 2015 because he was rehabbing, and then he hasn't forgotten that. And then They don't make any attempt to re-sign him. A few years ago, when he became a free agent, came to the Phillies, and even the former GM there, made a bit of a derogatory comment about him. That stays with you. It motivates you. But he's become such a different pitcher in Philadelphia. He really wanted to come to Philadelphia. He had heard good things about how some of their analytics were helping pitchers, and this is stuff he has told me personally. That he wanted to see what that could do for him. I mean, he talked about that at his opening press conference. He wanted to pair up with JT Realmuto. He wanted to pitch in front of this crowd, and he's taking his game to a whole new level. Now, I'm not naive enough to say that health hasn't had a big
Yeah.
Part of the reason he's taken it's been a big factor. He wasn't always healthy with the Mets, and he's found good health in Philadelphia. He's a horse, but he's also changed as a pitcher. He's added to his pitch repertoire. He's bonded with the pitching coach here, and he's taken his game to a whole new level, a better level here. So when you look back at the great signings the Phillies have made over the years, the top signings, Pete Rose was a good one. Schwarber's been a great one. But Zack Wheeler might be the best of all for what they've gotten from him. What was he? This is his 5th year here. It's just been a total stud. Great signing. And this is the last year of that original contract. Next year, he'll start a new 3-year deal at huge money, 43 and 43 million. But he's a heck of a guy to have as your ace. And in a short series, we know how important game 1 is, and building off that, we know how important starting pitching is. So he's going to be jacked. He's going to be jacked facing that team. Loves pitching in this environment. Loves pitching in the postseason. I also think he's motivated by 2022,
Sure.
the loss against Houston, and coming out of that game in Game 6. And it ain't ever going to feel right until he has a ring on his finger. So it starts Saturday for him.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at him, he reminds me so much of Halliday in a lot of ways, like the big horse, like that's incredibly competitive, really difficult to barrel up, whether it left or right side. I mean, he gave you 200 innings. He allowed only 20 home runs. He was like, what's his 10-1 or 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, 130 hits. I mean, he's just incredibly difficult to get to square up on.
Yeah, he's Halliday is a good comp. Both very serious about their craft, both extremely well prepared. Both horses in their own way. I mean, Halliday would give you 225 or more. But the game has changed a little bit, but they are both guys that, when they go to the mound, went to the mound, whatever you want to call it, kind of had in the back of their mind, I'm here for 9 innings. I'm here for 9 innings. Now, it doesn't happen often in the game anymore, and it doesn't happen often for Wheeler, but he's here to give you everything he's got for 7 or 8 innings. And that's a good recipe with this team, because I think Nola can give you 7. I think Sanchez can give you 7. And then you go to a bullpen. If you can shorten up a bullpen's workload and they only have to get 6 outs, in an era when managers are going to the bullpen sooner and sooner in the playoffs, when they lean on bullpens, this Phillies team might have a little throwback in them where they really lean on their starting rotation, and they should. That's what they built their great record on the first 2.5, almost 3 months of the season.
So, it's interesting because you bring up the bullpen, and to me, it's the Phillies' biggest advantage is their pen. I mean, you mentioned earlier you can go to 5 guys, right? So Estevez is your closer, but you got late back, you got your lefties, Alvarado and Strahm. You got Hoffman, you got Kerkering that can give you a good matchup. So you look at that pen, and to me, that really is. The Mets only have 1 lefty in their bullpen, and Diaz has been not as locked down as he was before.
Yeah, Diaz is like he's either going to come out and be brilliant, or he's going to have like a brilliant or a spectacular explosion. It's like he's one end or
Yeah.
the other. Seldom is he kind of right down the middle. He's either going to blow you away with the trumpets blaring, or he's going to blow the save and it's going to be ugly. So, um, I much prefer that guy that makes you feel good. So whether it's a Estevez, I much prefer that guy I don't have to gamble on, kind of the sure thing. So if it's Estevez or Hoffman, I think you're going to see them get some possibly, that final inning. But if there's a matchup situation, it could be Strom. But we'll see. I think Hoffman could be very vital for getting maybe what Rob sees as the three toughest outs in the late innings. Also, Strom if there's left-handed hitters in there. So, boy, if you're a manager and you got all this firepower down in that bullpen and they're all throwing well, it's pretty comforting.
Oh my God! No, it's interesting. The Estevez is an interesting guy, right? Because he comes from a bad team, so he never pitched, never closed in the playoffs. Does have really good stuff. He could at times make it interesting for you, but I mean,
Yeah.
he's got great stuff. Hums it in there. He's big, right? He's imposing. He looks the part of the closer.
Oh, he does. He looks every bit like a closer. Like you said, big body, comes right at you, fires hard. But I still think Strom and Hoffman are probably the two guys that he's gonna lean on the most in high leverage. But Jose Alvarado's done a great job in high leverage. Over the bulk of his time here. I know he's had hit a couple speed bumps here, and he hasn't had the year that he's had in the past. But if he comes out early and has a couple good appearances and builds some confidence, he all of a sudden, he becomes another weapon. So, and Kerkering, you look at this finish that Kerkering had in the month of September.
Yeah,
He could be a huge X factor down
he
there.
can.
So there's so many. It's kind of like a read and react situation, I think, maybe for Rob. In terms of, okay, who's the hot hand? Who am I riding here? You could, in terms of the bullpen, and there's a number of candidates who could end up being that hot hand, end up being the most valuable reliever, end up being the series' biggest difference maker. So it's like this, like you mentioned, big mystery. We're going to find out who the star of this series is going to be.
Right.
You look at the Mets. You look at the Mets, and you say, "Oh, it's going to be Lindor. He's having an MVP season." But Trey Turner could be the guy. Bryce Harper could be the
Yeah.
guy.
Oh,
There are
without a
some great
doubt.
players in the series.
All right, I want to bring on our special guest, and I want to tell you a great story. And we're not going to say he played for the Mets. He played for the Orioles. He played for the Mariners. He played for the Indians, and he is an incredible baseball guy. Second generation talent, MLB, decade, could rake, had it all. Let's welcome David Segui to the show. David did not play for the Mets for these purposes. He was a Mariner, an Indian. He was an Oriole. Not for the Mets, even though that's where he and I became buddies when we were both in New York. Segui, let's start off with first. How do you see the series? You have a knack for calling home runs and players. Jimmy, years ago, we was during the previous run with Charlie. He called Cody Ross as a guy to worry about in the Giants series before the series. You remember that,
Wow.
Seg?
Yeah. He was that hot hand. You could see was coming into his own, and you could tell he had that personality to embrace that big stage, and he took off. Man, that was cool to watch.
Well, hopefully you got a Philly for us that you're feeling that's going to take over this series.
I like Bohm, man. I like what he did with his swing this year. Lengthened his swing to stay in the zone. They have so many weapons. Like on paper, obviously the Mets, they're hot right now. They're riding some momentum, but on paper, I mean, I don't see them matching up with Phillies too strong from top to bottom. They do have balance in their lineup. Turner with his speed, they have everything. Bryce is going to be Bryce. He's going to lead. Um, healthier, whether he's 100% or his 40% is going to be contribute to making the team better. His personality is his presence. Schwarber, I mean, what he does is absolutely unbelievable. But they have so many weapons that it shouldn't be that tight of a series. But obviously, at this time of the year, you get a team with momentum and they start believing themselves. It's going to be probably be hard fought games. But if Philly executes, I think they'll move past them.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
With when a team like the Phillies have Zack Wheeler, what does that do to the players behind him in terms of confidence? When you have a Zack Wheeler on the mound, where's the confidence level in that dugout, in that clubhouse, and on that field?
I don't know him personally, but just watching him pitch, he kind of reminds me of like Holiday Doc, that heavy shot put sinker. He attacks the hitters. He's that quiet confidence that when you go out there, the dude's not going to be scared on the mound, and that goes a long way as a position player when you're playing behind a pitcher that isn't scared, and it seems weird to hear that there's actually big league pitchers that on the mound and they're not confident and there's fear. You see it. You can see it in their eyes when you're hitting. I mean, you prey upon that. That's like your shark circling the prey. When you see a pitcher on the mound, you can tell he's not wanting to be there. That dude has this quiet confidence. He's going to attack, and it does. It puts you at I don't say puts you at ease, but you feel super confident that you want to play hard for that guy. You want to score runs for him. You want to you're going to lay out and knock a ball down in the hole. You can do all the little things because that dude's competing. It's like playing behind Randy or Pedro's or the Pat Hankins, those guys that had more of the position player mentality than the pitcher's mentality, because we're wired different, pitchers and position players. But you got a the Scotty Ericksons, those kind of guys. That Jack Morris is. He's just that solid pillar in your rotation that you have to have. But you guys got multiple incredible stars. You got really good starters, man. You got depth.
It's funny you said that. Before you got on, I was talking about Halladay and the comp because he reminds me of Doc.
Yeah.
Just and presence, man. You nailed it with presence there. But you're right. Like the Phillies have Nola, right? You go back to a guy that's going to give you another guy who gave you almost 200 innings, and he's unflappable in that sense.
Right, and right now, people say, the guys are tired. That there's a second wind. Like I never even got to the playoffs. I never got to play in the playoffs, but when I was with the Indians, we made that run in the second half, and every game was like a play. Man, you're not tired. You can't. You finish the game, and you're ready to start the next one. You can't wait to get to the ballpark the next day. So the exhaustion, the dog days, that's in July and August. Now these guys are running on adrenaline, man. That goes a long way. And that fan base you guys have with the crazy crowds and all that energy, they feed off that stuff, man. Those guys are gonna be ready to roll. I hope the layoff doesn't, you know, get them off to a little slow start. You just don't want the Mets to jump up on them quick and get momentum and believing that they can take this series. But I just don't see the Mets having enough depth. There's a couple hitters you avoid, and if you watch the games, they're pretty stagnant. And then all of a sudden, there's one little spark, and somehow that spark turns into a wildfire. These veteran pitchers for the Phillies, I think, would be able to step off the rubber, exhale, and stop the momentum before it turns into anything big. They have that ability. They have good leadership. I think they'll be fine. It'll be a fun series to watch. The rivalry. It'll be fun. The fans will be having a good time. It'll be fun fan watching for sure. Watching the fights in the stands. Yeah, that'd be good.
There might be some of that. These two cities, man, they go at it. They had a big playoff series in the NBA with the Knicks and Sixers, and the Knicks fans
Right.
came down here and took over. I'm expecting a lot of intensity in the stands in both cities.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun, though. I mean, as a player on the field, you see it. I mean, you notice it, you hear it around you, and you actually thrive on that energy. the games in Tampa when there's 6,000 people and you can hear them talking in the right field bleacher. Those are hard, man, because
Yeah.
your focus. If you have any semblance of ADD, well, your mind can go some crazy places and your focus. But but when that energy is all around you and it's in that intensity, that's fun, man. That makes it. That's what you play. That's what you live for. That's what you work all off season and through spring training, doing all the grind, and that's for these days, man. I get excited just watching it. I'm old.
Hey, let me ask you. You were a dead red hitter. When you got and you were left-handed. When you have a lefty, the way the Mets do, the Mets come at you, Minaya, Peterson, Quintana,
Yeah,
and they crafty, a lot of
right.
not throwing hard, and the Phillies are fastball hitting teams. How do you approach that kind of left-hander?
See, I had the ability to switch hits, so that helped incredibly.
Yeah.
I never sat fastball. I did as a young hitter, and I was very susceptible to changing the speeds. And I remember the epiphany moment was we were facing Nolan Ryan in Baltimore, and Cal Ripken looked at me and said, "Sit off speed." I was like, "You lost your mind? Are you gonna break my bat in 100 pieces?" I sat curveball off Nolan, and I was able to hit his fastball. And that was an epiphany moment for my career. Is after that, I never sat on a fastball because as a hitter, our timing is always my front foot is the most important. You're getting your foot down on time. That's always set on the fastball. So I would tell myself slide, even if a guy didn't throw a breaking ball, a slider, I just sat slider speed so that my hands stayed back. It was a mind trick. So I was in a position to hit the fastball without cheating. Because if I looked fastball, I would jump. I was super aggressive. Probably had too many milligrams in me at the time, so I would jump. I would. I would get a little too. I would get a little too aggressive, and my hands would leak forward, and then I couldn't hit nothing at that point. You're flying open. So I had to tell myself to sit off speed, and then I could react to the fastball. And I just saw, was it Hank Aaron? I think it was a quote by Hank Aaron on Instagram. He said this exact same thing. He never sat fastball. He sat off speed because he knew his hands were quick enough to hit a fastball. And that's basically what we do with two strikes. That's a two
Yeah.
strike approach. Is you're making sure your eyes and your hands are together. My hands have to see the ball first before I commit. And that's all you're doing is you just don't commit your hands too early. And from that point, you're actually quick at throwing a punch.
That's a great cheat code.
Your question was how do you hit those guys? So especially for the lefties off the lefties, I would never look fastball. I would sit slider, slider, slider because a lefty does not want to give up, have damage done against their fastball to another lefty. The fastballs they'll get will be in tight off the plate to go back to the slider middle away. So once you take away their slider, you force them to have to come with the fastball, and now you've now trapped the pitcher into your little cage, right? You got him, um, wrapped around your finger, but you got to be able to hit a breaking ball to get a fastball.
Yeah.
And if you watch the style of pitching now, because of the style of the swing, it's a slider, 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 slider approach from the mound because of the new approach. They lift. It makes you susceptible to the breaking ball, the slider. So, I would take away the lefty slider. Quintana is Johan Santana to me. Watching him pitch, he's going to pitch off it. He sinks it. He two seams it. He four seams it in. But he's going to work off his changeup. He plays off the changeup. He wants to establish a
Yeah.
changeup in your head to then speed up his fastball. He pitches. So those are the kind of guys those are the fun pitchers to hit off of because it becomes a cat and mouse. It's a chess game. So if you like that challenge as a hitter, but you got to think along. You got to think along, and the game situations will dictate what he's going to throw, and you approach it accordingly. It's That's the part of the game that I miss is that cat and mouse back and forth. You can't duplicate that challenge anywhere in life, outside off the baseball field. So, um,
That's
but I think, I
fascinating.
mean, I think Bryce is going to do well off the lefties. I saw he seemed to be going more the other way and that guy's got stupid pop on the oppo field. Like he hits the ball as far to left field as the righties do when he's staying with that approach. As long as he doesn't get too torquey and twisty, he should be able to handle that challenge. Schwarber, you miss with Schwarber, you make a mistake, that ball's pummeled.
Kill.
I mean, that kid's amazing. He's fun to watch. I like watching him.
Jimmy.
But it's going to take. I think the right-handed hitters like Bohms, the Trey Turner. I think Turner's going to be a key. If he can get him on base, if he gets on base, because you can run on these guys, run them to death. That'll put a lot of pressure on and force them to have to come into the strike zone. But it'll be fun.
David,
It's going to be fun. It's going to be an exciting series.
who do you like big picture? Are you think in terms of what remains in the postseason tournament here? I mean, the Tigers, surprise team, a lot of fun to watch, but then you got the Yankees with those two big guns in the middle. You got the Phillies that have a star-studded lineup. Who do you think raises the trophy?
That's good. I mean, on paper, obviously the Dodgers, they got just a horde of talent. I mean, on paper, but they seem to find a way to get themselves knocked out. I don't. The Yankees strong, but I don't know. I see a lot of holes in them. You avoid those two big bats. You can navigate that lineup. It's gonna be tough for the Royals. They don't score enough runs. Their offense, their pitching's incredible. Their Kansas City's pitching's incredible, but their offense is very weak. I just don't know if they have enough
What's weird is that
to
they
be able to
over the
knock
last
it
month, David, like they've went quiet. But earlier in the
Yeah.
year, I mean, they raked.
Yeah.
I mean, Witt's ridiculous. Perez got good power. Massey's not bad. Second baseman. They didn't lead
Yeah.
off the lefty.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. They just the last month or month and a half they got got a little worrisome whether they're going to be able to hold on. But the Detroit's on fire. I don't know how they do it watching them because they bore me to death when I watch them play. But somehow comes the eighth and ninth inning and they're right there somehow. It's like those old Twins teams. It's just they're fundamentally sound. They just find a way to stick around, and then you make one mistake and boom, that turned into a 3-4 run inning, and now you're losing. It's pretty impressive. It's pretty cool to watch a team make such a turnaround. So they have that Cinderella vibe, I guess. But
And the Pod, we got the Padres. I didn't even mention them. And in previous years, to me, they were a collection of individual tools, great tools. But now they are a team. They have come together. Ironically, with Soto moving on, they've come together. They have talent, and they are playing like a team, and they can pitch.
Yeah, the Merrill, man, I love that kid. There was just some lack of chemistry for the last I don't know how many years. Because on paper it was like, man, this team's stacked, and then you watch them play, and it just it was no flow to the lineup. It just was boom, boom. It just started, stopped. It was weird to watch. And this year they have whatever it is. I don't know what that is. That chemistry is just flowing, and they have momentum too. That's going to be an interesting series. They're going to be a tough team to play. It's going to be a fun, exciting postseason. I don't think it's one of those groups of teams. It's going to be hard to pick.
Yeah.
Who's gonna come out on top. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean the National League. To me, you have the three powerhouses between the Phillies, Dodgers, and Padres. I mean, the Padres bullpen's ridiculous. You brought up Merrill. I was talking about it earlier. The piece of hitting he did against Fried, where he stays in the middle of the field, right? Stays in the middle, and he drove that pitch dead center. I mean, wow, what kind of? I mean, that was a great piece of hitting.
That kid is a superstar in the making. He's a pure hitter. He stays on the lefty, and I've watched him go out Oppo's, straight away to Oppo left center. Easy power. His bat stays in the zone really long. He runs well. I mean, there's no ceiling for this kid. He's really fun to watch. They should be very excited in San Diego to have a kid like that. To be around for a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's Red October in Philadelphia, and so we're fired up. My brother, listen. Next week we're going to book you before you make your run. Now you're going to be running up the mountain
every morning.
Wow!
Every morning.
How about that, Jim? Segui's running up a Camelback right now in Arizona.
I call them sprints, but probably from a distance it looks like a fast jog. But my gears, trust me, my gears are sprinting. I'm
That's
trying not to get
incredible.
old and fat. I'm fighting the old and fat. I'm in denial.
we,
Oh,
we've embraced it.
hey.
You're the greatest, brother. Well, I'm bothering you next week, man. You're going to be a regular now. All right?
All right, man. Hey, thanks, guys. Hey, thanks for catching out. Hey, I'll tell my pops. I'll tell my pops about the ball. I need to call, give him a shout. So he's back
Yeah.
in Kansas
Well,
City.
was it a palm ball or a fork ball?
It was a fork ball. I used to have to catch him before he went to spring training when I was a kid. I was scared to death. But he could make it go both directions. He'd make it go, into the lefty and away to the and into the righty. It's crazy. Like, I just remember one of my memories of him as a kid is him sitting around, the very few times he was ever at home because he played year round, and he would sit there in the kitchen table with a big softball, stretching his fingers out so he could get his big meat hooks around the around
Yep.
that fork ball.
You know, Jose Contreras did that too, and he threw a true fork ball
Yeah,
because
he did.
Jose Contreras would, a true fork
Yeah.
ball with no thumb on the ball, and he told me once if the thumb is on the ball, it's 82 up and over the wall. If the thumb is dangling off the ball, it's 78 and diving in the dirt.
I would have maybe considered cutting my thumb off, making sure, yeah.
That's great.
I'll
Like
be a,
Ronnie
I'll be a
Lott.
left, be a left-hand wiper. There you go.
That's great.
Yeah, but that's awesome. All right, you better get me off of here before I get you guys in trouble.
Yeah.
You're the best, Segui. You're the
Thanks,
best,
David.
All right,
man.
Great talking to you.
Thanks,
hey,
buddy.
take care, guys.
You
Take
too,
care. I'll
brother.
see you.
There he is, David
Bye, bud.
Segui checking in. And remember, for purposes of Red October, Segui did not play for the Mets. He played Indians, Mariners. He played Indians with Charlie, Baltimore, Toronto. I forgot the Blue Jays. He's a baseball encyclopedia, man. He knows the game inside out. I can listen to him talk hitting all day, Jimmy.
Yeah. I love talking to guys who been there and done that, and he's a very interesting guy. I remember his career very well, and what we were talking about, mentioned his dad. His dad was a great pitcher, but his dad finished his career with the Red Sox, and I got his autograph one day at Fenway Park, and I still have it on this ball right here.
Look at that. That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, Jimmy, final thoughts on the game tomorrow. I think we both kind of feel pretty good about the matchup, and we'll see. Topper's going to be talking in a couple hours. We expect it to be Sanchez in game 2. A little bit later on, he'll tell you probably that's the case. Feel good going into tomorrow, though.
Because of Zack Wheeler.
Yeah.
He's a great pitcher, and he is, he has never been shy in acknowledging his goals. Comes into camp and says, yeah, I'd like to win a Cy Young. But I think first and foremost, he'd like to put a World Series ring on his finger. That's what he came here for. And I think it's a great place to start. He's had a great year. But this crowd will be electric. There's nothing like postseason baseball in Philadelphia. And I've seen it in every stadium. I mean, this place rocks to the foundation. And you got guys like Harper and Turner and Schwarber, Bohm, who Real Muto, they feed off it. So it's becoming the last 3 years now, a regular occurrence around here, and people look forward to it. Red October is, in this city, it's the one thing that can push the Eagles into the background for a little bit. It's the one thing.
That's right.
I think the Phillies they have experience the last couple of years. They got a lot of star power in that lineup. They got an excellent pitching staff. It's their time. It really is their time. They get the experience. It's their time, but this Mets team, like I said, since early June, since they saw each other in London, 26 games over 500. Don't sleep on them. They're tough. They're going to be a tough out. The Phillies need to play well in all phases to advance.
I'm with you, my brother. Well, happy Red October. We'll see you on Monday. Man, this is going to be a blast. Buckle up, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Ace Hardware Home Services. Ace is the helpful place. AceHardwareHomeServices.com for your next home project. For Jimmy, I'm Cuz. Go Fightins.
We all silly like the mayor.